All right, this is part 2 of the first session. And just want to give you another practice before we did steps. Stop, take a breath, evaluate, figure out what's going on before you proceed with self-quality. This one, we're going to go to self-compassion. And I think the handout explains it better than I do. So let's see. Oops. Sorry about that. I don't have a thing on the side. Here we go. All right. So self-compassion is a woman named Kristin Neff. Seems to be at the forefront of the research and often works with a guy named Chris. I think it's Chris Germer and Kristin Neff, Chris Germer, and I have a link to their website. I'll be sending you some of those resources. Wonderful website with videos and TED Talks. So she has a practice called the self-compassion break. Maybe that's breaking from the state you're in. She's not an IFS person, but I thought this was a good first session skill to add to your repertoire. She says that compassion, in contrast to loving kindness, is practiced in the presence of suffering. It is opening to pain and suffering and choosing to be with that edge. It's often very difficult. Compassion are skills and energy, qualities that can be developed. You can become more compassionate, more resilient, better able to tolerate distress. One thing that I find interesting is that in her talks, she often talks about comparing self-compassion to self-esteem. She says self-esteem is good when things are going well and your self-esteem is high. But when things go bad, your self-esteem plummets. So it's kind of dependent on how things are going out there. Whereas you can always have self-compassion. You're always connected as if you're your best friend and you're there for each other. So, darn it, the formatting isn't working right. So what is self-compassion? It's kindness, common humanity, and I think the third one is mindfulness. So those are the three components. And this is an important piece. I have to be in the handout. But so she says there's these three components: kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And those are the qualities, maybe aspects of compassion, that when you can improve those three general areas, that really can improve your compassion. Because normally we want to blame ourselves and blame the world and not be so nice. So moving from not so nice to kind is a good movement. And we often want to isolate and pull away and go, oh, poor me, I'm all alone. I'm the only one in the world who has ever been rejected. And the truth is that there's, a million people on the planet at the moment who've been just rejected. And actually being rejected is actually one of the things that makes you just like a lot of other people. So that's actually a common thing. And then with mindfulness, you get out of this identification of that, oh, poor me, I've been rejected. And you move to mindfulness into the present moment, which if you can stay in the present, you're not in your thoughts and you can get out of some of the suffering. So her practice is close your eyes, go inward, take a deep breath. And if you just want to practice anything, bring to mind a present or recent distress, or if it's already just happened to you. So notice you're in it, kind of like steps, notice you're in it. And the first thing is say, this is a moment of suffering. This is hard. I am now suffering. And that does a couple of things. One, it you go from the emotional part of your brain that's firing and oh poor me and flooding you with rejection hurt into the prefrontal cortex, the more analytical executive functioning part of the brain that names it, put words on it. This is a moment of suffering. Yep, it's what it is. I acknowledge it. I can accept it. And that's really important. Once you can get there, that changes it. And it begins to extract you from just being thrown down the river to, oh, I actually have a slide about this, but I haven't put it in. You actually are not swimming down a river. You're in a boat and you have a paddle and you can miss the rocks and you can even pull to the side and rest or hang out in an eddy for a little while and not go down the worst parts. You can do things. So there you are. Then you say suffering is a normal part of life, the human experience. People get rejected. Yeah, this is my connection with the rest of humanity. It's normal. It sucks, but I'm not alone. I'm not unique. And then 3 and 4 are kind of like being your best friend. So she says it's important actually to have some kind of touch. So rub your arm, hold your face, no por pobrecito, and pet yourself, rub your legs, whatever, just some kind of, shake your hand, I don't know, whatever feels good. There's a thing called the butterfly hug. This actually can be soothing, but touch yourself so you can feel tenderness, kindness. And then as you're being your best friend, ask yourself, hey, what do I need right now? I need some strength. I need some C qualities. I need some patience. I need some resilience because I hate this rejection. I don't know how many pints of ice cream I'm going to eat. But to help get some strength, accept myself as and the situation as it is. It doesn't mean it's okay or that it is okay. It doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt, but if you can kind of be with yourself in it, it'll lower the pain, and maybe even get out of it. So you put on some Netflix or call a friend or do something. So there's acceptance in this, and with a lot of spiritualities and at the core of a lot of work on emotions, we hold the emotion, the thought, the body state, and we realize that we can handle it, and it will fade. It always goes away. It always comes, it always goes. And negativities often do come back as well. But when you're in it, it always feels like it's going to last forever. Even though it won't, it just kind of feels that way. And oh yeah, this is the time. Oh yeah, just leave me alone. I'll just be here. I'll eat the rest of the pizza. And just kind of be with it and be curious about it. Actually, that's one of the ways that I know when I study Buddhism. If you can, I think, what's his name? Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, great Tibetan teacher, came to the States, and he would say, oh, depression's got so much juice to it. It's kind of cruel. But what does depression feel like? What does rejection feel like? Where is it in my body? See if I can get some curiosity. Is it a science experiment? Now, if it's too strong, you won't be able to do that. Don't want to minimize how hard it can be, but maybe you can get outside it. All right. So that's it for the talk. Thanks for lasting this long. I don't know how long it's been on my recording. It feels like it's been over 2 hours, but or long. And here's a little outline of what I'm thinking. It may well change, but in the next 3 sessions, we've got a lot of material to cover and more practices to get into so we can practice working with difficult emotions. So so I'm going to talk next time about the power of feelings and emotions and how they can, the more extreme the experience, the extreme emotions from the extreme experience become extreme protector roles. So if it's bad enough, the shame is bad enough, your mind may come up with, well, I hope we don't wake up in the morning. That way we won't suffer. That's true. That is a solution. It's not a good one, but when you're extreme, the solutions will be strong, and many of them in very strong sadness and um, disconnect can be destructive. So we want to look at that, but they're not all that extreme. But I think that's important that it's proportional. Is anger an exile or a protector? And a lot of emotions can be either. So an exile is the anger from the past. Can you feel whatever just happened triggered the past, and you're feeling anger, vulnerability, or something from when you were younger? Could be last week, but we usually talk about exile as kids, but it could be any time in the past. And if it's the anger is, as I was describing earlier, that it's really about, I'm going to activate and I'm going to fight now and I'm going to find justice, that's a protector. That can be a little of both. Emotions and survival flags. So you've probably heard of fight, flight, freeze, and there's more F words. Fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn, fake. I put that one in there because I think that's very interesting. I've worked with a lot of kids who, a lot of clients who, when they were kids, they lied because they couldn't handle telling mom and dad that they failed, didn't want to bring their report card. And that seems like a survival technique. It's you can't flee. It's not flight, so you're making up something. That's kind of like fawn. Fawn is, like the Stockholm syndrome, that you're captive, and or in domestic violence, that the victim then plays a game so that they don't get hurt or they can survive. So that's a survival state. So we can see how, I'm not going to go into it too much, the neurobiology of the vagus nerves, et cetera, of shifting your state from fight, flight, freeze, et cetera, activate or shut down. But we can see how there's different protectors for different kinds of needs. Probably more week 3. We'll do more work with protectors. They can be tricky. They're really convinced that they got to do what they got to do, and we got to earn their trust, and we can't go too fast because their job is to make sure we don't get to the exiles. That's their job, and we have to get to the exiles to heal. And when we do heal the exiles, when your little child inside is no longer scared about what happened, then the protectors go, oh, I guess I don't need to do my job anymore, because they were trying to protect what the exile was feeling. So hopefully you can get a sense of how the healing and the moving is going to work. And I'll guide you through some feelings and then protectors. And then the unburdening exiles we'll be very careful with, because that's where I want to make sure that I can connect with you if you're doing deep work. And I don't know if I can do that with 20 people. So we will see who's there on week 4. And just off the top of my head, I may add or replace some of these, but some of the practices that you will get in the 4 sessions are tools to soothe and ground, tools to unblend so that you're being taken over by an angry protector and you unblend from it and you become more self and calm. Your inner Gandalf, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. I like Gandalf and long white beard and staff. And get better at accessing self qualities, how to calm and be your best self. Getting protectors to come out. I have a technique going to the meeting place, which I think I'll do. Hopefully we can control it to keep it protectors and not get too vulnerable. And then we'll do some work with intense protectors. That's what I entitled it. So we'll work with some anger and hurt, and be careful with that. And maybe we'll do some compassionate work with exiles. So that may be it. Got some homework for you. So if you're just getting this a few days before the second session, you won't have much time. But if you can watch this and want to practice steps and or the self-compassion break, if either of those speak to you, pay attention to talking to yourself. Just see if you can amuse yourself and go, oh yeah, there it is. start making a list of what are your triggers, what sends you off into a reaction. What, that's often in relationships, we get triggered, maybe something from the news. And notice what your go-to reaction is. That go-to reaction is a protector. We call those firefighters, triggered reaction. And maybe you can notice when, some emotions, just notice any of them. I just listed a few here. Annoyance, when you're anxious, when you're insecure, when you feel disrespected, just, notice what's going on. Where is it in your body? So I'm just kind of encouraging you to spend some time paying attention to your inner world. And that's that. All right. I'll just come back just for the sake of seeing my face again. Not that you necessarily want to do that, but thank you for being here. Thank you for